I've already said something about the national broadband plans, and I think it is very encouraging that we see movement in most member states. I was certainly encouraged by what I heard this morning, and I'm looking forward to the ideas that will be published in Hungary on Friday. We are certainly ready to support this whole process. We have established a high-level group where we have a constant dialogue with the member states and with other stakeholders. And when I say member states, I should also mention the actions that member states can actually undertake to facilitate the investment in broadband. The cost of civil engineering is very, very high, and I think member states can do a lot to reduce these costs. Infrastructure-friendly town planning is important. One can simplify the rules on rights of way, and some member states are already setting good examples in this respect. Infrastructure mapping is important. What is available in terms of duct capacity, in terms of other infrastructures that can be used for the rollout of high-speed networks. I know that Germany, for example, has established a very, very good map that gives a clear idea as to where infrastructure is available. This could then be accompanied by the coordination of civil works, and one should also try to facilitate access to ducts and to other infrastructures as much as possible. The member states can, of course, also invest themselves through public funds, and in this case, obviously, the state aid rules will have to be respected, but I think normally there is a very swift clearance by our colleagues in DG Competition and then by the Commission as a whole, provided that these projects are properly prepared, and we are certainly ready to help and give guidance also in that respect. Let me turn now to a point where we believe member states could still do better. They could still make better use of the financing provided at the European level. And this is the financing provided through European funds, the structural and rural development funds in particular. And there's a lot of underspending in these funds. There's money available, 2.3 billion euros for infrastructure projects. 2.3 billion for the period from 2007 to 2013. And the problem is that the usage of the infrastructure funds is only about 2/3 of what it is of the average usage for financing coming from the European Regional Development Fund, for example. It's only 18% compared to 27% for other projects. And I think this is something where we and the member states together could still do more. The funds are available not only for infrastructure but also for certain demand-side actions. I mentioned here again the guidance that we have published on state aid rules. And last but not least, we have a European broadband portal which was launched and which was recently upgraded, and where we have useful information on all public activities with regard to broadband rollout. So I think that member states need to do some work. We often see that the various public authorities, the various ministries, the various actors at the regional, local and then national level are not always sufficiently coordinated, and I think this is one of the big challenges for member states, to make sure that everybody works together, to make sure that the money that is there is actually being used. I think that overall we are on the right way to achieve the broadband targets. We have a sound and clear regulatory framework that encourages investment, and we now have to start and apply these rules. And I must say, as regards the ideas set out in the NGA recommendation, and which were greeted and validated by the member states, by the national regulators through the BEREC, I think in that respect there's still a lot of room for improvement. We sometimes see different approaches in the member states. There's a large variety of ideas that is applied there, and those ideas are not always fully in line with what we together said in the NGA recommendation. But however that may be, competition remains the most important driver for investment. and the major part of broadband rollout will have to be played by private stakeholders. And I think here we are on a good track, as we will see below. What is not helpful, I think, in this respect is the introduction of new taxes for the telecom sector. We have seen problems in France and Spain, and there are proceedings going on against these two member states, and I hope that this will serve also as an indication of the determination of the European Commission to make sure that the rules are respected and that the telecom sector is not taxed in a way that would not be compatible with European rules. Where do we stand at the moment? Just very briefly, on fixed broadband penetration, there are some member states who are among the world leaders. Those are in particular member states which have extensive cable coverage. On average, Europe is not doing much worse than other parts of the world, but I think we need the rollout of new technologies which can give us higher speeds. And I think there we see a lot of room for improvement still. High-speed broadband is, of course, key for reaping the benefits of the digital economy. We need good high-speed capacity connections. By the way, the figures for Hungary are missing because at the time the table was drawn up, we hadn't received those figures yet. But I think there are indications that about 85% or over 80% of the broadband lines in Hungary are above 2 megabits per second, and 30% are above 10 megabits per second. But again, this is encouraging, but there is still possibility to improve. Mobile broadband penetration is an area where we will probably see the most important developments, with an average penetration of just over 6% or possibly a little bit higher by now. These are July figures. With that, we see that a lot of work still needs to be done, and I think we need to stay on the ball and make sure that the success of the European mobile industry continues. And obviously, spectrum is a key enabler in this respect, and I'm very grateful that this afternoon there's a full session dedicated to spectrum. So, what are the next steps? We will organize on the 23rd of March a workshop with the member states in Brussels, and in that workshop we will try to take stock and see what has worked well and what hasn't. We will exchange best practice, so to speak. And I think we also need to continue our work on creating a favorable environment for investment. You will have seen in the press that today Commissioner Kroes is meeting a number of important CEOs in Brussels in order to talk about the way forward, the future of the sector of the digital economy as a whole. And last but not least, I think we have to continue to meet bilaterally with member states in order to ensure that EU money is put to good use as quickly as possible. We will try to continue and play a good role as a driving force and as a facilitator, but we can only achieve the targets of the digital agenda if we work together with all stakeholders. And for that, of course, we also need to be aware of what is at stake and what is expected of us. And I think that today's conference will make an important contribution to promoting broadband rollout throughout Europe. So thank you very much.